Phil Bach is a friend of mine. I've met. He is president of the Lake County Area Computer Enthusiasts. How far are you from the Lake Michigan?
Oh, about 10 miles.
Okay.
We're about lined up with Great Lakes Naval Training Center north of Chicago.
I happen to be the regional advisor for Region 6, which is the upper Midwest. So Phil's group is one of my groups. And so I learned about his different presentations, and we got him to do one for APCUG. And I didn't want to just do the video if I could have him live. Phil started out with about 7 years of Marine Corps duty and decided not to go an 8th year to make it even, and left the military and then put in 33 years with Xerox Corporation. You know how they spell that with the Z, Xerox? And so he worked with them, but now he's retired. Does a lot of work with his local computer group, just like a number of us do. Started out way back with the old Windows, and then moved all the way up. He became the expert at Windows 8, because he was like the first person to get Windows 8. And then he was like the Windows 10 expert, because he was one of the first ones to do that. But I think he would probably tell you he's no more an expert than any of us, but he just happens to use it. Today, though, I have asked him to come and do his presentation on digital afterlife, because this is the newest thing, and he's going to talk about it, so I'm not going to say much, other than the reason is I still get indication or notices telling me that I need to wish Bob and Georgia Porter happy birthday. And unfortunately, they passed on a couple years ago. But their digital presence is still there, and evidently nobody knows how to do anything about it. So I introduced Phil Bach from Illinois, and he will share his expertise on what he's investigated and learned and doing all that. So whenever you're ready to share your screen, you know how to do the share screen?
Yes, sir.
And I'll just sit back and watch.
Okay, how we doing?
Looks good.
All right. Hello, everyone. John, thanks for inviting me to join you at your meeting. I had to smile while you were going through the conversation about emails and assorted other things, because I thought I was in one of my own meetings for a while. This is a subject that I ran across about a year ago. Started seeing some articles about it here and there. Popular press, a couple of things over the internet, and I started poking around at it because, as you can gather from John's biography, I'm a senior citizen and looking down the road and saying, what do I need to do to prepare for bad things happening down the road, either death or incapacitation, to make things simpler for my family and my friends and all the rest of it. So certainly we all know about regular estate planning, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but this was a new subject that I started looking into about a year ago, and I've been accumulating information on. I'm by no means an expert at it, and I really still need to do a lot of this myself with my own accounts, but what I'll share with you today is what I've learned so far, along with some suggestions about how to proceed.
Phil, could you do us a favor and close out that Secure Everywhere pop-up notification? We see it on our screen. It's kind of blocking the bottom corner of your presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, is everything else off the screen?
Looks good.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Here's a quote that I think you'll smile about, but if you've been around for a while, you've probably seen personal examples of that. You make plans for all sorts of things, and the weather interrupts, or family interrupts, or work interrupts, or who knows what. But you can't assume that everything's going to just keep going on the way it is right now. And that's why we need to do estate planning. In the past, as I suggested earlier, this is focused on how we dispose of our physical assets, our money, our homes, our cars, and so forth. In the event of our death, who gets what, disposition of property, allocation of personal items, and so on. We do that by creating a will. We might do that by creating a trust. With that, you assign an executor to carry out what's spelled out in your will. You designate successor trustees to handle your trust should you become incapacitated, should you die. And this has all been pretty traditional kinds of things. Actually, wills and estate planning in one form or another have been going on for thousands of years. It's still going on today, but we've added to it in recent years the realization that when people become incapacitated, if they do, and are not able to manage their money or their investments, or if they're not able to participate in decisions about their health care, someone needs to step in on their behalf. You can either designate someone yourself with the power of attorney for property, or power of attorney for health care, or your family members, someone close to you, will have to petition courts to appoint a guardian to act on your behalf. Obviously, it's better if you do it yourself ahead of time. Whether for all these folks, your executor of your will, successor trustee of your trust, your agent for property, your agent for health care, they all need information about you, about what it is they're supposed to be managing, about your wishes for your health care, about the documentation that they will need, keys, passwords, access codes, everything that they will need to carry out their duties. So this is kind of a basic framework for estate planning as it's been done up till now. Well, where does digital afterlife planning fit in? This is a description out of one of the books that I read, Deciding What Should Happen to Your Digital Legacy When You Die. We'll talk about what digital legacy means in just a few minutes. Deciding if and how you wish to live on after your death. John just gave us an example of a couple who were living on after death, not necessarily based on their own wishes, but just because Facebook or some other website had sent out a reminder to wish them a happy birthday. If you didn't know they had passed on, you might go ahead and post the birthday wishes. Selecting and authorizing someone to implement and supervise your wishes, just as you did for your physical assets with your digital, with your executor, with your successor trustee, and so on. You need to select and authorize a digital executor and or a digital agent, which could be one and the same person, but they would do the same kinds of things that their counterparts in more traditional estate planning have been doing. Once again, you'd have to create and share documentation to require, to communicate your desires to all affected parties so that your family members, your friends, your business associates, whatever, would understand that you have asked so-and-so to manage your digital affairs should you become incapacitated or when you die. And if I don't touch on this a little bit later, John, please remind me, but there's legal implications in here that we need to talk about as well. Once again, you'll need to provide those individuals with all the information they'll need, where to find it, how to access it, and so on. And as always, we need to incorporate the possibility of disability as well as death. So what is your digital legacy? Well, your first thought might be your digital accounts. If you have social media accounts, you perhaps have bank accounts online, investment accounts online, shopping accounts online, Amazon, of course, comes to mind. Certainly, that's very much a part of your digital legacy. But it actually includes all the aspects of your digital life that exist at your death or at the time you become incapacitated. So digital files of photos, of videos, art, music, opinions you downloaded, correspondence, inner thoughts. I mean, if you kept an online diary instead of a physical diary, kept copies of emails, correspondence that you sent to people. Anything of a digital nature that you have accumulated or created can be part of your digital legacy. Now, I'm going to separate the pieces here. So the first three bullets speak to what is your digital legacy. Now that you've sort of got an idea of what it is, and you can sit down and think of your own personal situation, say, okay, got it, that would include this and this and this and this. Now it becomes a question of, okay, what do you want to have happen to this if you're incapacitated or when you die? Very similar to what you want to have done with all your stuff, physical stuff. Who gets the good china? Who gets your favorite rocking chair? Who gets this? Who gets the piano? Who gets my car? Who gets so forth and so on? Well, just as you may have found out if you've had conversations with your kids or other family members about, well, when I go, I'd like you to have this and that, or I'm saving this for you. It's been my experience that more often than not, you'll get a response of, well, gee, I don't really, that's very nice of you, but I'm already set. I don't need any more china. Why don't you give it to my brother? He's still eating off paper plates. You get the idea. So as you are considering what to do with your digital legacy, you really need to consider your potential customers. Who are the people out there who might want to have a say in what happens to all this stuff? And maybe sound them out in some cases, get a feel for what they would like to see remain after you're gone or be made available to them after you're gone. How interested are they? I'm going to give you some reference books later on, but it was interesting to me that one of these books was written as though everything should be saved and made available to the kids. Just it's like you don't clean out the basement, let them clean it out, and they can decide what they want, what they don't want. Another view from a different source was, hey, I've passed along things, I've communicated things, I've shared photos with people, I've sent emails to people and so forth. We don't need to keep anything after I die. Just tell your executor not to give out any of your passwords to anybody so nobody can access your accounts. And sooner or later, all the various account holders will wipe you off their files, and that's the end of it. So there's a mixed bag. But you notice my question at the end, and how do you feel about this? After you talk with your family and members and so on, what might they want access to? What are their wishes? How do you feel about that? You may or may not completely agree with them, and you need to factor that into your decisions as well. And I mention as an example a case that I read about that goes back to 2004. As I understand it, there was a Marine who was killed in Afghanistan in 2004, and he had used Yahoo as his email provider. His family wanted access to his emails. I'm not sure why, but perhaps just get a feel for his feelings and how he felt about the war and so forth and so on. Yahoo said no. It was their policy at the time, and I believe still is, that when you die, your account dies with you, and that's that. And of course, emails that he had sent to them individually as family members, they theoretically at least had in their own files and could access those. The family went to court, and eventually, after about a year, won the case, and Yahoo was required to turn over his emails to them. Now, nobody will ever know how that young Marine would have felt about that and what emails he might not wanted his family to see, but he didn't have a choice. So you do, if you make some plans ahead of time. Do you want your family to have full access to all your digital files, or don't you, and pick and choose? Okay. When I was younger, I actually had a 3D tic-tac-toe puzzle. They're kind of fun. It's like any other tic-tac-toe puzzle, but you can work in multiple directions, and it obviously makes it more complicated. And I thought of the parallel to digital afterlife planning. You might ask why I feel it's so much more difficult, and here's why. First, your digital stuff keeps changing. You get new hardware, new software, new technology. I was downstairs and I ran across a little storage case of 3.5-inch floppy disks from probably 10 years ago or longer. And I realized that the computer that I had used them on was long gone, and I had no device in my home that could actually play these things. Now, you could send them out and have them transcribed and so forth. I happen to know what the files were, and I just ended up destroying them. But the point is that your hardware changes, software changes, you get new technology. Some of the media that you store things on will deteriorate over age. You're getting an ever-growing collection of files, photos, music. That's why computers went from, my first Apple II computer had 16 kilobytes of storage. Now 1 terabyte is normal, and a lot of things are now starting to come with higher than that. And so it's like having a huge basement in your house. You can keep filling it up and filling it up and filling it up. The second thing, of course, is that providers and websites keep changing their end-user licensing agreements, terms of service, processes, government regulations change, laws are changing, and interestingly enough, this is a pretty new area, and it's being governed by state laws. And so there's, I believe, something like 25, 26 states have laws pertaining to digital afterlife, digital legacy issues, and others do not. So court cases, such as the one about the Marine and the emails, all of those can affect your digital afterlife planning, and the people in your life may change. Just this, and this would apply in your physical life as well as your digital life. Relationships change, people die, and so forth and so on. So it's whatever you do now, you need to make a note to yourself that perhaps in the old world with wills and trusts and so forth, you might review them every 5 years or every 10 years, just check with your lawyer and see what's changed. You probably will need to review your digital will, if you will, and your digital instructions on a much more frequent basis because of all of these factors. So before we get into the details, hopefully you can see this picture reasonably well here, and I'm just wondering how many people recognize that. I was at a doctor's office the other day, and I was startled to see an old mail chute in their building. This, for those of you not familiar with one of these, they used to put these in hotels and office buildings and so on. And everybody on each floor could just drop their letters in the slot and go down to the basement through this chute and out to the mailroom. But the point of it is, if you've been around for a while, you're likely to have a lot of physical, analog, and digital stuff that's very similar to a lot of physical and analog stuff that's very similar to the digital stuff that we're talking about now. And photos becomes a good example. I have a photo album in my basement that has black and white snapshots that I took in 1944 with my Kodak Brownie camera. Okay, that's part of my photo life. I have pictures of ancestors that I inherited from my parents that are stored away. We've got income tax returns. We used to do them with pen and paper, and now we can do them digitally and so forth and so on. So music, same thing. If you have LP records, you have CDs, you have cassette tapes. So just as you need to think about what you want to have happen to all this physical stuff and those physical files that you have in your house, we're now talking about doing the same thing with the digital files, but there's some parallels there, and my encouragement here to you is to say, as long as you're looking at photos, let's say, as part of your digital legacy, you might as well look at photos in totality and say, okay, do I want to try to digitize some of these old photos I have and create strictly digital files? How much of this do I want to keep? What do I want to have happen to it? Who's supposed to get it? So a common approach may save you some time and get some efficiencies as you try and plan for the future. So where do you start in your digital afterlife? Well, a good place to start is looking at your digital accounts. How many do you have? And that's an interesting question. I put all my passwords, security questions, PIN numbers, and all the rest of it on an Excel spreadsheet. I've also used a password manager, but I put it on a spreadsheet. And I just checked the other day, and I'm up to line 440 on my spreadsheet. Now, that's not all accounts. That includes security questions, PINs, et cetera, and also includes a number of my wife's accounts as well. But chances are you could easily have 100 without thinking too much about it. Just to give you an example, my son asked for a rather unique baking pan for Christmas one year recently, and I looked around. I finally found a baking supply company in Brooklyn that sold it. Well, to place an order with them, you had to open an account. So I opened an account, password, log in, all the rest of it, and my son got his baking pan. He was happy, and now forever and ever and ever, I will have an account with a baking supply company in Brooklyn that I will never use again. So if you've had experiences like that, you may have more accounts than you think of. How many do you need and use? And what will happen to them if you die or become incapacitated? And what do you want to happen to them? And are those one and the same? Maybe, maybe not. And what can go wrong if you do nothing? Well, the one thing you can do is crank out birthday reminders to people after you're gone. And so what do you need to do now to make sure your wishes for them are realized? And here are examples. You can think of them all. But you've got bank and credit card accounts, insurance. Your doctor may have a patient portal that you may have. You have health insurance, medical information, shopping, blah, blah, blah. You use cloud storage, about all your utilities, publications, a number of publications, PC World being one of them, which I have a subscription to, has stopped publishing print editions completely, so you can only get them digitally. Computer-related, travel, vacation, entertainment, and of course social. And this was the 15 most popular social networks a year ago. I didn't find the comparable list for 2018, but of course Facebook's up there at the list, and YouTube and Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Reddit, Tumblr, et cetera, Flickr, and MySpace, and so on. So how many of those do you have, and what are their afterlife policies? And this may come as a complete surprise to you, but I'm guessing that it won't. They're all different. Everybody has their own policy or not, or some cases clearly spelled out, in other cases somewhat vague. So you're going to have to go through this literally one by one by one to see what what they offer in the way of instructions, appointments, actions that you can take or that someone you authorize can take to deal with your account the way you want to have it dealt with. We don't need to go through all these in detail because this I took out from articles, not directly from the providers. It's subject to change. And most of them didn't talk about disability, they only talked about death. But I just wanted to make the point that they're different. However, there's some good news, and when I get into the reference section here, I can point you toward a reference that will help you get a good handle on the differences between these various policies. Here's an example. This is Google's, which is one of the more straightforward ones. If you go into myaccountgoogle.com, this is a page that will come up. And I'm assuming you all have a Google account of one sort or another, Gmail or separately. If you go into personal info and privacy and go down to control your content here and click on that, you will get the next screen. It says control your content. And down here it says assign an account trustee. Approve a family member or friend to download some of your account content in the event it is left unattended for an amount of time you've specified. And it's called Inactive Account Manager. Decide what happens to your content if you stop using your account, and click on change your setting, and it takes you to another screen where you make a plan for your account, and you click here to start, and it literally takes you by the hand and walks you through a series of forms, and you literally build your plan for Google and leave it on file with them. This next slide shows is not from the current Google website. I did this about a year ago, and this was under Inactive Account Manager. This is what they showed. And it's really a flow chart where you set a timeout period after which your account can be treated as inactive. And the timeout period starts with your last sign into your Google account. So if they don't hear from you, don't see any signs of activity, you're not using Gmail, you're not using Google Chrome, you're not logging in anywhere with the Google account for a specified time period, they're going to say, something's wrong. They allow for an alert that you can, if it's getting close to the timeout period ending, they'll send you an alert saying, hey, Phil, what's happening here, guy? You okay? Likewise, you can add trusted contacts who can be made aware that you're no longer using your account. So if you're living separate from family members or close friends or whatever, someone you would want to know that maybe something's not going well with you. Perhaps you'd like to add them to the list, share data with them. You can put instructions in here on how to delete your account or instruct someone to do that for you. But these are the kinds of things, and I've seen comments that said Google's is one of the I won't say simplest, but the clearest ones to work through and to use. Oh, sorry. Okay. So, we agreed that yes, we're going to start off with our digital accounts. I suggest we start with our social media accounts because so much of you is exposed to others, and then you can work through all your other accounts. On the other hand, you may want to start with a simpler one and say, okay, let me just check out my online bank accounts. What would I want to have happen to that? Maybe my online investment accounts, whatever. Whatever you do, as you go through your process, here's a perfect opportunity to clean house. Delete your unnecessary accounts. The fewer you have, the less commotion later, the less work for your digital executor. It simplifies your life down the road. Remember to review your physical accounts in parallel. Is there benefit to digitizing? I talked about photos, for example. Do you want to take the time to do it yourself or have someone do it for you to digitize your photos, or let's say your videos? I had an 8mm movie camera way back when, took movies of the kids and sports and all the rest of that, and my 8mm movie projector quit working, and I said, this is crazy. So I took them over to Costco, and they digitized and put them on a DVD for me, which is still not digital in the sense that we're thinking of here, because the next step, of course, would to put them in a complete digital file and save them to my computer, which I guess I could do from the DVD. But in any event, is there a benefit to digitizing or eliminating them? Do you really need to keep your life or your income tax returns from 1965? Probably not. Here's a chance to clean those out. Create a log of all your accounts, documenting the process of spending, closing, or otherwise dealing with each account. And when I say a log, you could do a digital log, you could do a paper log, you could do a combination of the above. Whatever you choose to do, excuse me, I would encourage you to get your digital agent or prospective digital agent and or executor to participate in this review with you, to gain familiarity with your digital life, but also to offer his own or her own questions or recommendations as the person who's going to be left to clean up your mess. They may think of things you didn't think of when you're building this log, and once you're gone, you're gone. We had a sad case of that in our own computer club where there was a woman and the wife and the family had done all the computer work for the family. The husband wasn't interested. She was a computer whiz. She became unexpectedly ill, was hospitalized. Husband obviously very concerned, visited her and so on, and by the time it occurred to him that his wife had password protected their computer and tried to ask her for the password, she was unable to provide it to him. After she passed away, he was able to get some technical assistance and was able to get into her computer, but that's one of those things where if you have another person working with you on this, they may offer questions, suggestions, recommendations that you had not thought of, because once you're unable to provide that information, that could be a problem. Here's a form I put together on a spreadsheet. I originally thought about trying to do a fillable PDF form for this, and I said, well, I don't have the software for this. I'm not going to go out and buy it for this. Let's see what I can do with the spreadsheet. So I created, if you will, a template here with account name, account address, other account information, username, password, other account security, why I have this account, what it's for, why I do it, what should be done with this account in case of incapacitation, in case of death, how to accomplish this, and any comments. And then, of course, you can fill that in, as I did here, for my Xfinity Internet. And here's account address. For past and current invoices, see the bills stored digitally on my desktop. I gave the file information for my current and past bills. My username, by the way, these are not the correct.
Quick, put them down.
Was there a question? I heard some talking.
Slow down, we'll write that down.
Okay. But username and password, I thought that was good, faster than a speeding bullet. But other account security, like two-factor authentication, security questions, PIN numbers, and so on, I made up a bunch of security questions too. Why have the account? To provide access to the internet, allow music and video streaming, and so on. What should be done with this account? In the case of incapacitation, leave it open, continue to use if others need this internet access and or for video streaming and similar activities if I am able to enjoy them. Otherwise, close. In the case of death, close unless needed by other family members. How do you do it? And they gave several ways to do it, customer service, blah, blah, blah. So, and I did this, and I typed, obviously it's a Word document. So I can save this in a folder on my computer digitally. But what I can also do with it in parallel is print it and put 3 holes down the side, and I'm sort of a belt and suspenders guy, and put it in a 3-ring binder, which, like if you will, think of it as the old Rolodex, where you can add sheets, take out sheets, put new updated sheets in, and anybody can grab that. They don't have to log onto your computer, wade through your files, and turn to it and see what you have. And I'm starting this process myself. I'm far from finished going through all my accounts, but I think I'm going to do at least initially both of those. Okay, now what? So now you're well on your way to organizing your accounts. Go back to my 5th slide where I talked about digital legacy. What goes into your digital legacy besides your accounts? Well, all your other things, your files of photos, your files of music, files of videos, files of documents, magazine articles, things you stored in Pocket or Google Keep. Go back again, collect detailed information about each area. Purge unnecessary stuff, then organize it, like your photos, digitize it, whatever. Decide what you want to have done with what's left. And document your decisions in enough detail, make your intentions clear, provide passwords or other related access information, and I encourage you once again include physical and digital assets in this review. Once again, share the results with your digital executor and agent, and once again encourage them to come up with questions and things that they might want to know or have access to make life simple for them when they are called upon. So I modified my form a little bit to head it up with categories. So category could be photos, let's say. And with that, it would be file name, file address, and so forth, username, and the same kind of things down here. And as an example, I created one for photos. And I said pictures on PHP desktop in my pictures folder in my Windows 10 desktop, my PC. My file address is this PC, pictures. It's in my standard account, PB9271, which is not my standard account, but you get my drift. If you've not had conversations in the past about admin and standard accounts, here's my opportunity to make a pitch that everybody has to have an admin account on their computer. Everybody should have a separate standard account on their computer that they use when they go on the internet, because it makes it more difficult for bad guys to download malware on your computer. You'll get a pop-up window asking your permission to install stuff if you tried to do this in a standard account. So I've got literally no files in my admin account, no personal files. I don't use the OneDrive account that's associated with my admin account. I've got nothing. I only use it for updating software and updating my computer and so on. So in my standard account then, I have all my pictures stored in my picture file. Saved photos, primarily taken by myself, but also others, no username or password other than my computer's password protected. So that would be the only password they would need to get access to my pictures file. So that's my standard account PIN. Once again, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But that's a standard account PIN to get into my computer. Why have the file? Primary digital photo location. What should be done with it? Nothing, unless I'm unable to view or appreciate photos. So even if I have cognitive issues or whatever, I may still enjoy being able to see photos of old friends and so forth and so on. If I'm not able to do that, then ask family members to review and cull, take out what they want, and delete the remaining photos and delete the file. How to accomplish this, normal Windows file commands and so on. So now in theory, I would have probably 5 or 6 sheets of paper under the category of photos, because I have 35 millimeter slides downstairs. I have some scrapbooks with photos pasted in them. I've got some envelopes of old family photos, blank, blank, blank. And of course, I don't store, if I had a Flickr account or a Picasa account, or I otherwise stored photos in the cloud, which I do not, that would be other places that would be included in this as well. So it would be, you'd end up with maybe 6 or 8 or 10 entries for photos. Okay. So I've given you I've probably put the cart before the horse because I've talked to you about things you can do and how you can proceed to set up handling your digital legacy. Before I talked to you about how can I learn more about digital afterlife. So now we're going to talk about how can I learn more about digital afterlife. To learn more about it, get some help. Okay, I'm going to talk about some reference books that I've used and recommend, a training course that I've used from Udemy, and there may be others out there as well. YouTube videos, there's YouTube videos on everything, and there is on digital afterlife as well. Magazine articles, news articles, web articles, you'll find some NBC News, CBS News, video clips about digital afterlife under YouTube videos, but certainly there's lots of web articles out there as well. Presentations like this one or local ones at Computer Club, or if your library has tech presentations, they may cover one. Our library here where I live had one as well. There are dedicated websites that offer support and assistance, and I'll show you where to find a listing of them. Knowledgeable professionals, and this is where I'm attorney. I'll touch on the legal aspects here a little bit. If you have an attorney you've worked with on a will and or a trust and or powers of attorney, certainly he or she would be a good place to start to ask about the legal aspects of your digital afterlife and appointing a digital executor, digital agent. And see how knowledgeable they are about this field. Perhaps they can point you to the right direction if they themselves are not familiar. But there was some question and a thread running through the material that I read that pointed out that just writing a letter to my family saying I've appointed my son Joe to be my digital executor, and he has authority to make all the decisions. I provide him with information about what I want done with all my digital accounts, and please respect his authority, and so forth. That's not a legally binding document. If somebody in the family wants to challenge it, if they want to write a letter to Facebook or Yahoo and say, no, don't listen to this guy, I'm his brother, I want this, I want that, it brings into this whole question of legal standing. So I would encourage you to talk with your attorney, and this is going to differ from state to state depending on the laws, depending on the case law, and it's going to probably keep changing. But that's worth having a conversation about. And while I'm on this, it's a little bit off topic, but while I'm on this, you probably need to give some thought, as I'm starting to, about possible conflicts between a executor of your will and your digital executor, because you may have told your digital executor, if I die, close this bank account. Well, your executor of your will may be using that bank account to pay your last bills from. So there's some potential, at least, which I've not seen discussed in the literature so far, for conflict and boundary issues between your traditional executor and power of attorney folks and your digital executor and agent. Obviously, it simplifies things if they're one and the same. That makes that go away. Otherwise, you probably need to talk your way through that with both of them and perhaps with your lawyer as well. Okay, so a lot of places to go to learn more about this. Okay, one of the first books that was put out about a digital afterlife is called, not surprisingly, Your Digital Afterlife. It was written by Evan Carroll and John Romano. It was published back in 2011, and it was early days when this thing was, people weren't even really thinking about this, I don't think, very much. It's no longer in print. You can buy this is a snip from Amazon's website. You can no longer buy it new. Well, you may be able to, but Amazon doesn't care. It's no longer in print. They offer a used paperback version for $14.97, or you can get the Kindle version for $15.39. Here is The table of contents, cover your left eye and read the top line here, if you will. Chances are this is hard to read, and I'm not going to read it all to you, but this book is about 215 pages or so, and it's really very thorough, and he talks about the history and how digital legacy, the birth of the digital legacy, and how we've become aware, and this was back in 2011, that there is this thing called a digital legacy and how we're going to deal with that and so on. Talks about devices, social websites. He talks about posthumous messaging. And I'm not going to talk a lot about this in this talk, but much of what I'm focused on is what would be considered the digital parallel to traditional estate planning. What happens to your legacy and materials when you die or become incapacitated. But there are services out there that and websites out there that will allow you to leave your accounts open, in effect to memorialize them, and that's an option with Facebook. So if you choose to have your Facebook account memorialized, it will remain up there online. Your friends, whoever's on your friends list will still have access to it after your death as they did in your life. So should they want to go back and reminisce about good times or remember when that happened or whatever, they can do so. So you can memorialize some of your accounts. There are people who've created content. They've done podcasts, for example. They've written opinion, op-ed pieces, and so on that have been out there online, accessible to either a designated audience or to people in general. They may choose to leave that available to people because as a gesture of goodwill, as a reference point for people who are looking for something that you've talked about or written about. And then there's a little more esoteric versions where you can pay a company to send happy birthday emails to friends and family members on their birthdays from you after you've died. In effect, create an avatar of you. They've even got artificial intelligence involved to where they can take enough samples of your voice that they can send a live birthday message to a cell phone or a computer of what sounds like you, saying, hey, wish I could be here on your birthday, but, happy birthday, hope you have a wonderful day, and so forth and so on. So if that intrigues you, you can look around and look around on some of these websites and find out about that. And he talks a little bit about that in the book. Here's another one. This is from an outfit called Take Control Books. It's based in upstate New York. Started out as a company focusing on Apple products. So if there are a number of you with Apple products, be it iPhones, iPads, or Apple computers, you may want to check out their website. They are all ebooks. They're not in print. They're all ebooks. They sell for about $15 a pop. Once again, it's takecontrolbooks.com. This one is about 125 pages. They just published it. It is available, as you may notice from this, on Kindle as an ebook for $10. I happened to buy my version directly from their website, and it was about $16. You get a couple of bennies by doing that because if the author updates it, not completely, but if he were to update certain sections and so forth, they would send them to you automatically. So you can check them out and take your pick, Kindle or their site. But this is a very well-written book. It's new. It came out in 2017. Here's their table of contents. And you'll see, if you had them side by side, you'll see certainly a number of parallels with the first book, but they're not completely duplicative. For example, Joe spends a fair amount of time talking about preserving your data for posterity. Choosing archival media, data archives, et cetera, et cetera. What do you do about media aging and so forth and so on. Okay, this is a Udemy course on Discover How to Live Forever, Tweet and Blog from the Beyond. That was about $16. It was put out originally, I think, in 2014. It's more of an overview. It's not as detailed as either of those books. This gentleman is one of the ones who suggested that you just let your accounts die with you and be done with it. Here are some YouTube videos on Digital Afterlife. You can plug, if you use YouTube, just plug in. And notice I put quote marks around Digital Afterlife when I did the quote on this, and I'll show you why on the next slide. This is when I did a Google search for Digital Afterlife. Notice how many results I got. 86,300. When's the last time you've done a Google search and gotten something less than 5 million? Okay, so this is still a niche subject. But if you try Digital Afterlife without the quotes, every site that has the word digital in it will come up in your search results. And every religious site that talks about the afterlife will come up in your results. So be sure if you're searching to put some quote marks around this. Interestingly enough, if you look at a couple of the items here, here's one: the digital afterlife is a mess. The digital afterlife is open for business, but it needs rules. If you read those, they talk about what I was touching on, the fact that this is a little bit of the Wild West. You have these companies springing up to offer services and going bust in a year or 2 or 3. So be careful should you elect to pay somebody to do something for you 10 years down the road. Court cases are changing landscapes. State laws are changing landscapes. End user licensing agreements are changing. With the new privacy rules in the European Union, we've got new user agreements from many of our websites here as they update their privacy agreements to match the European Union. And that's really what they're referring to, very much in flux. I just wanted to do a contrast. I mentioned how to archive your data forever, which was one of the subjects that Joe Kissel wrote about. If you plug that in, you get 32,500,000 results. So Digital Afterlife is still kind of a niche area. This is a website, thedigitalbeyond.com. And by the way, I'm going to send copies. I think John's probably recording this, but I'm going to send John my slides on this as well. This is probably the original Digital Afterlife website. And once again, it was set up by Evan Carroll, who is the gentleman who wrote the first book I talked to you about. It's called thedigitalbeyond.com. And he started this, I want to say, maybe 2006, 2008, maybe 2010. And he's accumulated these various talks and articles here about death, digital afterlife, etc. And if you were to scroll down through this, these are 2018, these are the newest ones. If you were to scroll down here, they're all there, going back to the original website startup. Something else, so read through this at your leisure. I think you'll find it interesting. But in particular, what I want to call your attention to is this online services list up here at the top. And the next page, if you click on that, here's what comes up: Digital Death and Afterlife Online Services List. And he has 57 services listed on here, websites, and with the date of founding and what they do. No recommendations. It's simply a listing, a place for you to go as a source to start checking out some of these websites, see what they offer. There's one right here. They're listed alphabetically. There's one right here called After Steps. It's an all-in-one end-of-life planning service. Simplifies end-of-life planning process by guiding users step-by-step through the estate, financial, funeral, and legacy planning that make up a complete plan. They store your plan, related documents, give them to your designated beneficiaries, and so forth and so on. I'm going to talk to you about a different website, also on this list, that does the same kind of things. It's called Everplans, www.everplans.com. And I picked this one out not because I'm familiar with the services offered by either of these, or I'm recommending this over the other one, but because of the resources and guides section on here. But they do the same thing that the other site does in terms of storing your documents and helping you guide your wishes, funeral preferences, the whole bit. Free trial. It is a fee-for-service plan. I'm sure the other one as well. But the resources and guides are free. So if you click on them, here's what comes up. List of resources, planning categories, etc., etc. I clicked on digital estate. Okay, if you click, but you can check them all out. It's all free, no obligation. State-by-state guides, and they do their best to keep them up to date. So you click on digital estate, and here's what pops up. And actually, it's a whole page full of these tiles with little how-tos on different subjects. Digital cheat sheet, how to create a digital estate plan, and how to close online accounts when someone dies. Now remember, early on I promised you I was going to take you to a reference site that will tell you 220 different websites how to close online accounts when somebody dies. So when you click on that, here's what comes up. Step-by-step instructions on how to close more than 230 digital and some non-digital services. The list keeps on growing. So you click on alphabetically, you want Facebook, you click on F, you want somebody else, you click on that, and up will come the current discussion, presumably current. I say presumably because they can't possibly be updating these daily, I don't think. But a roughly right description of what you need to do to close your account. So you may want to go here first to get an idea of what it's probably going to be like. But you need to then obviously go to the website itself, but at least it'll kind of help give you a little background before you start. Free. So, final thoughts, a lot to think about, explore, do. One other thing I wanted to mention to you, and I'm not sure this is on that list of digital websites that I talked about before, but I just got an email or a mention, I think it was out of the Kim Commando newsletter, about an outfit called Legacy Box. And what Legacy Box does, you take all your non-digital stuff, your photos, your movies, your whatever, and that you want digitized, and put it in a box and send it to them, and they will sit down and digitize it for you. It's one word, Legacy Box, capital L, Legacy Box, all one word. And you can look it up, legacybox.com, if you care to learn more about it. It may or may not be in that list on Evan Carroll's website, the Great Beyond, or the Online Beyond. But it's another resource that you might consider using. So a lot to think about, explore, and do. Environment is constantly changing. You have a mix of tangible and digital assets. Consider them together. Consider your customers. Who are you doing this for? Don't forget to consider incapacity versus death. And make sure family, close friends, agents, executor know about and understand your digital afterlife plan. And as I said before, get some legal help to make sure that you can put some teeth in this so that if there are discussions or debates after you die, they can be resolved the way you would like them to be. And another famous saying that we probably all heard at one time or another in our lives. And with that, here's me, here's my email. If you have any questions or thoughts or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Please drop me an email if you would. That would be great. And that picture was taken some years ago. And that's it. Questions?
You still look good. Yeah, do you want to switch, stop sharing so we can see you and you can see us again?
Sure. And there you are. You have to turn the lights on now. Yeah. They're kind of, hey, look, they look like they're awake.
They are.
Please turn on the lights.
Yeah, they're going to turn on the big ones. I want to make sure that you speak to all of the legal aspects that you wanted me to make sure I reminded you about.
Yes, sir.
Okay. One question I'll start out with, you were talking about the legal part. Would you find, and I'm way over here,
okay.
Would you find, is there a difference between deleting your online access to the bank different than deleting the bank account?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, if you remember your bank, when you set up with your bank, maybe chances are you set up with them in the analog world where you went in and they mailed you a bank statement every month and their loan statement every month or whatever, credit card statement every month. And then they started bombarding you with requests to go paperless. And so if you were a good guy, you say, sure, why not? And oh, by the way, it's safer. They can't steal the paper documents out of your mailbox. So you go ahead and set up an online account. And then, of course, they start bombarding you about setting up an app on your phone, a banking app, so you can do it on your phone. So you are, in some ways, treading on more, in my view, more dangerous waters than you did when you were getting the paper in the mailbox. But so I've not done this, but I see no reason why you can't delete the app and rescind your paperless account with them, or go in and talk with them and say, hey, look, I want to get out of my digital. I still want to do business with you guys, but I want to get out of the digital side of it with you and just go with paper. That's one less place for some bad guy to hack into you on your computer, but now you got some bad guy who can steal stuff out of your mailbox. So it's choose your poison.
Now you can hear him real well because we've got these double speakers, but he's hearing us through the mic in the camera, and I'm up close. So if you have a question and you're way in the back because you didn't choose to come up close, speak up. So Phil's got time for a few questions if you have those.
Yeah, I'm in no hurry, so if there are questions, I'll be happy to stick around.
Phil?
Okay, here's one coming from the back. I'll relay if you don't hear it.
Phil,
Yes.
even though it's almost not a question, I was so happy that you brought up people having an admin account and their user account, because I'm personally acquainted with several people that do not understand that that is important, and your bringing it up again today will allow us to bring up the subject again in our everyday classwork here. So thank you.
Good. You're welcome. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I found my own experience in art club that most people weren't aware of this, and I'd run across this, 10 years ago, I think, in some computer magazine article that made the point then, made a lot of sense to me. So I've done that ever since, but it just, people buy a new computer and they set up an account on their computer and they start using their computer. I mean, and what's the problem? It's so easy to do that.
Yep. Don't think we've ever heard that before, have we? Sue?
John, I'm curious if he has established his digital agent, and how willing were they?
Did you get that? Do you have your digital agent set up?
No?
Okay.
Oh, no. Please understand. I am sitting here looking at this presentation saying, this looks pretty good. I should do some of this stuff. I spent all my time putting presentations together. So far, as a matter of fact, if you go back and look at my APCUG video, you won't even see that form that I had, because I hadn't created that form when I did that a month ago. So, yeah, I'm still a traveler on this journey myself.
She was curious, too, if you've ever approached anybody to see how willing they would be to be your digital agent.
No, I have not, but I have I won't say unique situation, but I've asked my son to act as the executor on my will, my traditional will. And my son happens to be very knowledgeable about computers. So I see no problem whatsoever. As a matter of fact, he is the person, I've not had a conversation with him, but he is the person that I would be talking to about doing this. So I'd get a twofer.
You got to take 1 second. Because this has to go with our online. Technically, this presentation is brought to you by being a member of APCUG, because Phil's a part of our Speakers Bureau, but he's also one of my club, group members, so I could contact him directly. So we like to, when we do presentations like this, send a picture to go with his, Speakers Bureau, and we have people. And we also like it if you like the presentation and having the Speakers Bureau, that you let APCUG, that you like that kind of benefit, because that's one of the benefits that we get for $50 a year. And Phil's one of a number of presenters that are willing to do this, because we run out of people who, in this club right here, I can point my finger at all the people who won't do a presentation in front of us, but we got people, Speakers Bureau, so that's been great. Any other questions for Phil? And I will say that I didn't tape it with the Zoom one because Everett does it, so there's no need for the two of us. And so if you talk to somebody who should have been here and didn't, and realize afterwards, boy, I should have, you can direct them to our website, to our YouTube channel, that's really Everett's YouTube channel, and they can watch this. They can also watch the September presentation he did for BTC, but that won't be as good as the one today. So those will be it. And Phil said he will send me the slides, and then anybody that wants them, we'll send them out through the club mailing, and you can have that for review. Because Phil's right. He's really big on this, but it is a big job to do. And so he is telling us, and himself, we need to be doing this. Just like, and Phil knows it from his club too, we keep talking about backing up your software or your files and your digital files. And people say, yeah, I need to do that. But even though we had one huge afternoon, I'm sure we could go around the table and find out, well, yeah, I'm going to get around to doing that. And then you'll come to us when your computer crashes and say, what do I do now? And we'll say, sorry, you didn't back them up. Any other questions for Phil? Yes?
When you do your list, are you going to put your spreadsheet in your safety deposit box in the bank? Where are you going to put it?
Good question. And it's actually a broader question because it gets back to backing up your computer. What do you do with the backup files, the floppy disk, or not the floppy disk, but the external hard drive or USB drive or whatever? What I've done, first of all, I haven't gotten to that step yet, to answer your specific question. But what I do with my backup files is I bought 2 small portable external hard drives. And I plug one into my computer and back up file history on that. And every 2 weeks I swap them out and do it on the other one. And with the one I take out, I put in a fireproof box that I keep in the basement. Now, ideally, I should not keep it in my house. I should put it in a safe deposit box or whatever. But that's what I do. There is another option, and it's one that my son has suggested to me, and I've not really explored. He introduced me to a piece of software called 7-Zip, Z-I-P, 7-Zip, which is an encryption software, a combination of zip files and encryption. So you can create an encrypted file in condensed form, in zip form, and you can attach it as an email attachment, send it to them. So I've done that, for example, with my list of passwords that I described, my 400-line long Excel spreadsheet. I encrypted that and made an attachment to an email I sent to him, feeling reasonably confident that nobody else would be able to access that. So there's a couple of options, but certainly having, and you don't have to have necessarily external hard drives. They're making USB drives now so large, 128 gigs, 64 gigs, depending on how big your files are. You can save a copy on that. You could mail that to someone. You could put it in a safe deposit box and so on. But as of right now, I've not specifically addressed the question here. But further to that question, What I really should be doing is whoever I've designated to be my digital agent or digital executor is the person I should be sending this to as I do it. So if, an airplane falls out of the sky on my house before I get finished, at least he's got a certain amount of it.
Anybody else? If you would like Phil's email address, you can just email the club, ecotu.club@gmail.com on our website, and request that. I won't post it on the website because we don't want it harvested and then him get thousands of junk stuff. And then he'll send me the newest slideshow, and you can share it. Feel free to share with family, friends who weren't able to come. Well, Phil, I personally want to thank you for being in person. Saved me from having to do a presentation. And I'll let you know that there's a possibility that next year, since we only have one more program and it's already booked for this year, that Phil has a couple of other good presentations, so we may call on him next year sometime to come back and share. Personally, I like this. We have people that, in my clubs, in my 2 regions, and I've got a huge number of clubs that I do, we have clubs that don't like this. They only want some live person standing in front.
You're kidding me.
And it's getting harder and harder to get those.
Yes.
And to have something like this, Phil's back in comfort of his home,
Right.
and he's able to connect with us. He didn't have to drive anywhere or whatever, and we got him almost as good as here.
That's what I like about the
Yeah.
ACCUG.
So Phil, thank you for
How
giving
much
up.
more does he cost?
Oh, how much more? Well, luckily, if we're doing it through APCUG, plug, it's a service, and like I said, he had no transportation costs. He just gave a few hours of his Sunday afternoon, which we appreciate. And I will let you know that are you doing it tomorrow night?
Yeah, tomorrow night for CAMA over in Canton.
Yeah, one of my other groups, our Canton Akron group, that's the CA part. So he's going to do it for them. And then, next month, Bob G is going to be doing presentations all month long, and sometimes he's going to be doing 2 or 3 in a same day because he can be hopping over the country. So he'll be with us on the 3rd Sunday afternoon. The only difference I'll tell you right now is we're starting with Bob's presentation because he's on a time schedule. So we will start right at 2:30 with presentation, and then we'll have our business meeting after that. Well, Phil, thank you so
John?
much. Yeah.
Yeah, John, one point, those 2 forms that I made up for digital files and digital accounts, I think I'll send those to you separately as an Excel spreadsheet,
Oh, okay.
and you can pass along to your members, and anybody can use them, welcome to use them, but should you find anybody does try it and find ways to improve upon that, this is a first cut that I did by myself. By all means, please do so, and appreciate it if you'd send me back a version of the new improved spreadsheet.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and end our Zoom meeting,
Okay.
and thank you again.
You bet. Goodbye, everyone.
The benefits of Zoom. And this works out great. He was only in Chicago area, so he's kind of like, well, you got to skip over Indiana. But we could have had anybody from anywhere in the world do this.